business credit, 0%. What's up? Good evening. If you're just joining me, then we're going to talk about this blueprint for how you get access to 50K, 100K, 150K in business credit with no documentation submitted, even if you're a new business, even if you're just starting out. It's incredibly powerful, and I want to share it with you tonight. Right? So I have been in this space for a little bit. What's up? What's up? Good evening. I've been in this space for a little bit. The past 4 years, I started my entrepreneurial journey and got into real estate mentorships and things like that. And I learned about business credit. Right, I had not um, been exposed to business credit at all, and I eventually just dug into it. I got into it on the client side. I got into it, and eventually started saying, okay, this is really, really powerful, and I can start to share this with other people. But by the time we were all said and done, between my wife and myself, we got almost $500,000 in business credit that we could use towards mentorships, towards investments, towards getting help and assistance, things like that, carrying costs on our real estate projects, all sorts of things, and all of it has been isolated basically from our personal credit. Right. So this is like the super powerful, the super powerful thing, and I want you to take advantage of this um, as quickly as you can. Right, because this is a formula that I'm going to share, and the beauty of a formula is when you have it together, it works. Right. That sounds simple, but when you have the formula together, the things that you need, you put them there, and then you get spit out a result. Right. So when you have these things in place, I'm going to just go straight through them tonight, one by one. Like these are the exact things that you need to be able to get that 50K, that 100K, that 150K in business funding. Um, it's one of the most powerful and streamlined ways to be able to get into it. So I'm asking and answering questions this evening. Anything that you want to know about business credit, business funding, what's been holding you? What's the thing that you feel like you're not sure of, like how this works, or is this for me, or I've heard about this myth or heard about this approach? That's what I'm answering tonight, right? I'm going straight in. Frank Harris, good evening. Unleash the dog, good evening. So I'm gonna go through this blueprint, right, for you to be able to get access to that 50K, 150K, and it, this formula works like pretty much no matter what you do. Right? Why it's so powerful, and it's fairly simple. And you might be sitting on, some of you watching right now could be literally sitting on 100K that you didn't know that you had access to because your credit profile is in a certain place. We're going to walk through that exact thing. If you have any step, any questions as we go. Um, I want you to put your question in the chat. I've paid a lot of money for this information that I'm about to share with you, and I want you to be able to access it, for free, so you can push yourself forward, push your family forward, and just enrich your life. And I want to equip you with the tools that you need because it is a very accessible thing that anybody can take over. Right. So let's just dive into it. I'm going to go quickly through like exactly what you need. I'm not going to waste any time, and I'm jumping through the exact requirements. Right? If you have this, then you can access it. Right. And then we're going to loop around. If anybody has questions while I'm going, feel free to ask your questions. But I'm going to start going through it. Right. So number one, there's two things that we need, two pillars in order to get access to business credit. And we're going to talk about like what is business credit, why is this, what are the types of business credit, like why is this important, why is this different from something else I've heard of, and we're talking about specifically this is business credit in the form of 0% interest funding that you can use for 12 to 18 months, right, in the form of business credit card stacking, right? And why is this important to approach it this way? Is because it's one of the fastest ways to get into it, that where if you're sitting on it, that you could be there within 30 days. Even if you don't have an LLC right now, within 30 days, you could be set up for that. So it's one of the fastest ways in. And when you get in, it's one of the highest amounts you can get, right? The highest approvals that you can get. So yeah, there are ways to build up business credit with some other methods and things like that, but it does take a lot longer. There's more work. There's kind of more investment involved. And it takes just a lot to build up. But if you have this structure that I'm about to share with you right now, if you have this structure set up, then you could literally in the next 30 days, right? My last client that came through, but it's by the time from the time she booked a call with the team, and to the time she had 95,000 available to her in her for her real estate business was 22 days, right? She executed on the information on the consultation that she had, and again, if you're just joining, the one thing I'm going to be repeating tonight is my suggestion is that you take advantage of these free consultation calls. You're going to go to fundingmyfuture.net, or you're going to click the link in my bio, DM me, whatever you need to do, but get a free consultation call booked to know what your exact next step with whatever it is, right? So let's break this down again. Any questions that you have about business credit and business funding, right? Like I said, I've been through it on the client side. I've worked with a couple different companies as a client, and now I'm serving people to be able to help people access this right now. So any questions that you have, put them in the chat, and I'm going to start going, and we're going to get this rolling, right? So number one, what do you need? There's two pillars of this, right? It's the personal credit profile. Your profile needs to be set up in a certain way, and then your business entity structure needs to be set up in a certain way. And both of these are so the banks it'll be as attractive as possible to the banks, right? That's our main target and our main goal, right? So, what does that look like? Your personal credit profile needs to look like this, right? This is going to sound very simple, so I'm going to go straight through it. However, this is like one of the most important things. And once you know this, it opens up a lot of doors, a lot of opportunity. So I want you to pay attention to this. Those of you that are watching and tapping in tonight, I appreciate you. If you hear any information that's helpful for you, I want you to hit the like button. I want you to share this with somebody. In fact, just share this with somebody now. I know for sure that this is going to be valuable. I'm going to break down the exact blueprint. Right, no gatekeep. Here it is. Right. So number one, I'm going to go straight through quick, and I'm going to loop back around to some details on each point, and then we're going to get any questions. So if you have any questions, make sure you put your question in the chat. I'm answering everything, right? So here we go. So number one, your credit cards, right? You need to have a certain number of credit cards, and those need to have a certain age on your personal credit. Again, we're using our personal credit profile to be able to get our foot in the door with the bank, to be able to get these high limit business credit cards. And again, the beauty of business credit is that these balances and these accounts do not show up on our personal credit report, right? So I could have a $20,000 business credit card, and I could be using $20,000 of it. It's fully utilized, and my credit score, my personal credit score, can stay intact. How do I know? Because I've got the balances on the business credit cards. I just told you that we've gotten over 500,000, both between myself and my wife, leveraging some strategies with using multiple LLCs and things like that. So we have balances on these business credit cards because certain things in my last 4 years of entrepreneurship, business, real estate, certain things have gone right and well, certain things have not gone well. You know what I mean? So there's different things I got to shift and do, and there's balances on those cards. And what is my personal credit score? The last time I checked, a couple of days ago, 850, 847. Right? So it's completely intact, even though this business credit side is active and being used. This is the power of this, because there are people. I just ran into somebody today that said they did a whole real estate project using their personal credit cards, and things like that. And they're barely squeezing by, and their credit score has tanked. So now it's limiting them from doing other things. You know what I mean? So there's so many things that people are missing by not leveraging this business credit and keeping things separate, right? And there's a lot of other advantages that we can talk about. So again, put your question in the chat. I'll thank you guys for tapping in, and let's get going. So number one, your personal credit cards. You need at least 2 credit cards with a $3,000 limit or more, right? Or that's the bare minimum, right? Ideal is you have at least $10,000 limit or more, right? On 2 of those credit cards, and then your overall limit ideally would be for between $30,000 across all your cards and $100,000. If you have that, that is already the great starting point. You're already on a good foot. So you might literally be sitting on, like I said, 100K in the next 30 days. You could be literally sitting on 50K, 150K. And depending on who you leverage, you could be doubling that up, leveraging different strategies, right? So if that is you, if you're watching now and you say, Kyle, I got a couple of credit cards, you know what I mean, that are over $5,000, over 10,000, over 3,000. I've had them for a year. I want you to put a 1 in the chat, right? Just put a 1 in the chat. At least that's that step. Why is that an important step? Because it takes a while for these things to mature enough to be satisfying to the banks. So some people who have been using credit for a while, it's kind of a normal thing. Like I had this card for 10 years, for 8 years, but some people don't have that credit. And if that is you, then I don't have to worry about it because there's options that we have for you as well to be able to push forward and still leverage the same information. But if that is you, then you're in a very solid place to be able to move forward again, to be able to potentially access this 50K, 100K, 150K, to be able to use at 0% interest and with no documentation are required. No tax returns, no bank statements, no business plan, no personal financial statements. Like none of that is required. You can be a brand new business, and you might feel like, okay, this seems like I can't because I don't have revenue. I showed them, how am I going to qualify? Like these are things you can access if you use this formula and this strategy, then you can access. Right. So here we go. I'm gonna tap in again. Pat, good to see you. Andrea Francis, Unleash the Dog. Welcome. Appreciate you guys coming in. Again, if you're getting any value from this, hit the like button, share this with somebody. Right. So here we go. So we talked about the credit cards. Next is your credit utilization. It needs to be under 30% or under 10%. Let me just say this: if you're watching now and you are able to pull up your credit report, you can actually look at your credit report now and just go line by line and see, hey, do I have this? Do I not have this? And you can like literally pre-qualify yourself before we finish the night, right? You could literally do that. So let's look at that. So your utilization, right, needs to be below 30% at bare minimum. Ideally, it's below 10%. Now, here's the extra nugget: this is across all of your cards, right? The grand total needs to be below those thresholds, and your individual cards as well. A lot of people don't know that. Individual cards also need to be below those thresholds. If you got those two things, like I said, right, then that's you're in the game, right? So next, your inquiries need to be 2 to 5 inquiries or less per bureau. Ideally, you have 0 inquiries. Ideally, you have no inquiries in the last 6 months. Anything older than 6 months has a little less impact on your funding opportunity chance. Anything greater than 6 months, I mean, like sooner than 6 months, now the banks are starting to look a little sideways because you're like going for credit too much, which is why you have to be very strategic with anything that you do with your credit. So before you apply for anything, if you're thinking at all about getting business funding, business credit, and things like that, don't go applying for stuff right now because the strategy, sometimes you can set yourself back months at a time and things like that. The strategy that you need to apply is very important. Kyber, I see you jumping in here. What's up? Good evening. So let's talk about this. So we talked about the number of credit cards that you need to have. We talked about the utilization. We talked about the number of inquiries on your file, right? Now next, the number of total accounts that you have needs to be at least 7 to 10 accounts on your report. So again, like I said, you could be following with this now. You pull up your credit report. If you have credit monitoring with My FICO, with My Free Score Now, you can Experian, your Credit Karma. If you look at your actual report, you can look at these numbers and these data points and check it for yourself if you want. Or you can book a call with the team and have your stuff looked at, submit it, and then the professionals will look at it and say, okay, line by line, yes, no, yes, yes, no, 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 yes, right? So at least 7 to 10 accounts on your report. This is not just your credit cards, all across everything, right? So this is your mortgages, your auto loans, your student loans, your credit cards, your store cards. You have at least 10 of those in your name, right? If you don't have that, then you can start building it up. If you do have that, you might be sitting on the funding that you could be using, right? So next, the average age on your credit. What's up, Kyber? What's up? The average age on your credit, right, needs to be at least 4 years or more, right? That is a good sweet spot. If you have 2 years or more average age on your credit, then you can squeeze in the door, right? But the more age, the better, right? We're going to come back to a quick hack about that. Like how can you leverage this, or how can you improve that if you don't have that at this current moment? Next is we want no negatives on your report, right? No derogatories, no late payments, no collections, no charge-offs, no bankruptcy. Clean, right? If that is you, I just went through the whole thing. If that is you are literally sitting on money that you could be using for your business, you could be using to push yourself, right? So, let's talk about some of the nuances and things that you can do. I said, if you know that, I know that happened pretty quickly. But if you were taking notes and you wrote that down, that's gold. It's like literally gold right there. Because not only can you be getting funded for yourself or your friends or colleagues or clients or things like that. Once you know those bullet points, then they can be good to go too, right? So it's super powerful. So let's walk through each one. Again, if you have a question, put your question in the chat. I have paid money on top of money for this information, and I'm sharing it with you for free tonight because I want you to be able to move forward and push your life forward, push your family forward. This is what I want. So please ask your question to make sure that you are getting what you need. And there's like, what hesitation do I have? Because there shouldn't be really any room for hesitation, especially when you're talking about this approach where it can be accessible by anybody that applies this formula, right? So let's talk a little bit more detail, right? So we talked about the credit cards, right? Why do we need credit cards of a certain amount, right? And what was the amount? Is you at least $3,000 limit or higher, and I have at least 2 cards. That's the bare minimum. But ideally, I've got $10,000 limits. I've got $15,000. I've got $20,000. Why is that? It's because the banks need to see what you have been able to handle, and they're going to give their business credit approvals based on what you've been able to handle, right? So if in your credit report, again, like I said, you have your credit monitoring up, you can pull it up now and just go and look at it and say, okay, well, what do I have? You don't have the time to do that. You can link and the team, and somebody can look at your report professionally and say, okay, this is exactly where you are, exactly what you have, exactly what you don't have. That's what you need to do. So if that's you, they say, we don't even have the time to finish hearing what you're saying. Tell me how I can get access to 100K, to 150K, you know what I mean, to 50K at 0% interest, 12 to 18 months. Just let me know that. If that's you, I want you to go to fundingmyfuture.net or click the link in my bio, right? Fill out the form. It takes about 90 seconds. Fill out the form and get a call booked, and you'll get your exact next steps laid out, right? So we talked about the credit cards, but you need those comparables. So if you only have a $500 card from Capital One or something like that on your credit report, that's the only card that you have, and that's the biggest limit that you have. The bank is not going to give you an approval for $25,000, for $40,000, for $50,000, for $10,000. They're not going to do that, right? So you're going to get some very low approvals if you don't have some solid comps, right? And if that is not you, don't fear, because we can start to add things to your report now so that you'll be set up for funding in the future, right? It's always good to just start building. The time is going to go by super quickly, so don't get into the trap of feeling like, I don't have enough time to wait to set this up. The time's going to go, so just get the ball rolling, right? So those credit cards are important. Again, if you don't have that, there are certain cards and credit unions, certain banks that you can leverage that can give you high limit cards, even if you're just kind of starting out, right? And this is according to the strategy where if you've built up your profile to a certain point to make it look as attractive as possible, even without credit cards, then you can go to some of these credit unions, like, for example, like Navy Federal is a good one, where it's like they will give new people, if you have a relationship with Navy Federal, like an internal relationship with them, or you've got other products and different things like that, and you've been a member, you can get some approvals that are more favorable, right? Even sometimes if your credit score isn't super high, sometimes you can still get a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 personal credit card, and that can serve as one of your comps on your report when you start to go for business funding, right? So this is a very powerful point. Number 2, utilization, right? This is a big one. So utilization trips a lot of people up, right? Because people have their credit cards, and they've been using up their credit cards, and the more that they've used, the more their credit score goes down, right? And sometimes this is for reasons that are not so great, just didn't manage it well. But other times, like, I'm just trying to do business. I mean, I have things to pay for, I'm investing in it, or I'm, again, in my friend's case, like, it was a real estate investment, and he's putting money in to keep the project going. You know what I mean? And his utilization was high. But here's what you can do. So don't fear. What you can do is you can take your high utilization, like your personal credit cards, and simply shift it into another debt vehicle, right? That doesn't play a factor into the personal credit score, right? So what is that specifically? We're talking about, let's just say, for example, I've got $10,000, right? On my credit, my personal credit is used. and let's say most of my utilization is up. That's most of my limit that I can take that $10,000 amount, and then I can get a personal loan for $10,000 and pay off the credit cards, right? So now the debt didn't change. I still owe 10,000. It just shifted from one place to another, right? So I owe the 10,000 over here, but guess what happens to my credit score when those balances go down? My credit score jumps up because it's based on your revolving credit card debt, right? So this is a critical point to know, because if utilization is the only thing holding you back, you don't have really any late payments, no negatives, but you just have been using your cards and there's just a lot of balance on it. This is one of the things that you can do to be able to impact that significantly, right? Without having to necessarily come out of pocket or do that much in order to get it. It's just literally shifting from one place to another, right? So again, you have that personal loan. The first thing that's going to happen when you do that is you're actually going to be paying a lot less, right? You're going to be paying a lot less in your monthly payment or whatever it was, because personal loans traditionally have a lower interest rate than credit cards. So that's already going to be a good move for you, because you took this and now the credit cards are paid off. Now you got the personal loan, lower payment. Cool. But here's the extra sauce. Here's the extra level that you can take it to, right? So you now, when your credit score goes up and the utilization drops, you're now positioned to get business credit and business funding, like we're talking about, right? So if you do that, okay, I've got the personal loan here, credit card balances are low, and I'm ready to get business funding. Get with the team, I get approved, and I've got 100K, I got 120K, I got 150K, I got 80K to play with, right? And now I can effectively move that balance that was on my personal loan and shift that balance over to the business credit, which is now at 0% interest. So I just went from 29% interest or 25, depending on which credit card you have, all the way over to 0% interest, right? That's a lot of savings every month, right? Now, what can you do with the rest of your amount that you have that you got approved for? Now it's time to say, okay, how am I going to use this to leverage toward new income for the business, right? If you don't have that question answered for yourself, it's how am I going to make money with the money that I get, that I get, right? If you don't have that answer, then this might not be for you. So I'll tell you, like, we don't even work with people that aren't going to be set up for success, right? Like, you don't even have the drive. Some people are like, hey, I just want to, go on vacation and buy purses and shoes, and that's this is not for you, right? In that case, so but what's one of the ways you can leverage this, even if you don't know, is mentorship is one of the most powerful things that you can do. And business credit, I think, is one of the things that opens up mentorship in a major way, right? Because as far as mentorship goes, you can access pretty much anyone in the world in any industry that's teaching a high level skill set or that has access to a high level network, things that can increase success rates and decrease failure rates, give people tools and things that they need to do an exact thing, whether that's something in real estate or whether it's something, drop shipping or, hair and nails, like whatever it is, there's somebody that's teaching like how to do it well. You'd have to be able to vet that system, you know what I mean, well enough. But when you connect with the right person, that to me is the biggest shortcut that you can access, right? Because now you're getting the exact tools you need, and you can access pretty much anyone in the world between about $3,000 all the way up to $20,000, up to $50,000, right? Sometimes it goes more than that, but I'm talking about you can get to anybody for that amount. And if somebody is telling me, I was just on a call today where they're saying, okay, the high ticket is $25,000 in the inner circle, right? But the promise of the mentor at that phase is I can teach you how to make 20,000 a month, or teach you how to make 100,000 a month, and they're showing their students inside of the community that have receipts. Okay, in November, I made $3 million just using this strategy, or I made $50,000 in a day by using this particular strategy, or that. So you're saying that if somebody has the capability to be able to educate you on exactly what you need to do to succeed at a high level, the only barrier then is, well, how do I get the money to be able to get into this? How do I get into that circle, right? So here comes the thing is, $25,000 sounds like a lot. It is a lot in some terms. In some ways, it's not. But how long is it going to take you to save up 25,000? Some of us have it in savings accounts and things like that. But do you want to use your liquid cash or something like that? Once you have business credit, and I can say, okay, I got 100,000 approved, I got 120,000, 80,000 approved, and now it's like if I need to spend that 25,000, I can use one of my business credit cards to do that directly, like right now. And then if I have the will and the desire to be able to execute on the information, to be able to say, okay, you're telling me that you can teach me how to make 30,000 a month reoccurring. That was another one of the students. It was okay. I've been in here for a few months, executed on just 10% of the information that was given, and now I just did a webinar. I did a thing, and now it was $30,000 a month. That was the result for the day, but that's also reoccurring every month, right? 30,000 a month, right? So the investment that she made, as far as the 25,000, in order to get 30,000 a month, that makes sense. But where did that 25,000 come from? And technically, that can come from business credit, and that opens that doorway for you to be able to do that, right? And this is, like I said, pretty much anybody in the world. So again, this is the power of this. I want you to, if you are still tapped in here, I want you to share this with somebody. Hit the like button, and let me know what questions do you have, right? If you're watching this, I want you to feel empowered to say, okay, well, what is it that's holding me back? Are you really seeing like you have access to this? Like, well, let me know your question. Okay, I'm gonna tell you the answer. And if it's something I don't know, I will point you in the right direction. So I'm gonna open the book, and I want you to win. All right, so let's keep going through this. So we talked about this personal credit profile, right? We talked about the utilization. Those are the big ones, right? The inquiries, right? You need to have less than 3 inquiries ideally per bureau on your profile. Ideally, you have 0 in the last 6 months, right? So again, you can check your credit report. If you don't know how to do that, then, let me know and I can point you in the right direction. And it's Montgomery. Thanks for the gift. Appreciate that. So are we back? So the inquiries, right? So you need to have at least 3 is the max that you want to have before you would have a problem with the banks and start to look at it a little sideways once you have more than 2 or 3, and especially if it's recent, right? Now the good thing about inquiries is if they're not tied to open accounts, write this down if you're not familiar with this fact. If they're not tied to open accounts on your personal credit report, you technically have the ability to remove them from your report, right? Leveraging some of the laws that exist, things like that, and different strategies, you have the ability to remove those from your account, right? Now, the other thing about business credit, if you didn't know, so the way that we're getting this business credit at these high limits is we're leveraging our personal profile, right, in the form of a personal guarantee. Now, the only way that this has an impact on our personal credit initially, like I already told you, this comes to not show up on your personal credit report, right? So the only way that this impacts us initially is we get a hard pull on our personal credit, right, on one of the bureaus. Now, like I said, these accounts don't show up on your personal report. So once you get it, right, this account is not on the report. So now we can technically and legally remove those inquiries from our personal credit report, right? So this is how people are able to get. And when we're doing this stacking approach, we're going to each bank and we're getting their business credit card product, which is typically at 0% between 12 to 18 months, right? We're going to each bank and we might get 10,000 from this bank. We might get 20,000 from this one. We might get 50,000 from this one, and then 35,000 from this one. And then suddenly we've been stacking up these different things. And each one is going to pull an increase from a certain bureau. Now, this is why the sequence of how we do this matters a lot, right? Because we don't want to just be going on the same bureau. And again, we have research. You can find this information online if you look for your own account. But we have research to which banks pull from which bureaus. So now we can stack the sequence together and say, okay, we're going to go to this bank because it pulls from TransUnion. Another one that pulls from TransUnion. So we have those two, right? And now we're going to go to 3 banks that pull from Experian, right? And now we're going to go to 2 banks that pull from Equifax. That's going to be our first round. And then we can go through and wipe off all those inquiries. So now it looks like it's a clean slate. What we can do is, if we wanted to go further, now we can go to this credit union that goes from TransUnion. You can go to this other bank, this regional bank, this local bank, and you can start to stack it up over and over and over like that, right? And there are certain limitations to the amount of time that you have the accounts. Again, the length of time that's in between your applications and things like that. However, when it comes to our personal credit being able to leverage into this is how we can do it, right? So, super powerful stuff. So the inquiries, I talked about the number of primary accounts that are reporting on your credit profile, and the average age of your credit needs to be at least 4 years, if or 2 years at the minimum, but at least four, and then no negatives, no late payments, no charge-offs, no bankruptcies. If that is clear, that is you, then you need to be getting on this ASAP, because you literally could be 30 days away from 100K, 150K that you could be using right now to be able to scale and expand. Like I said, get into the right rooms, get the right network, get the right information to be able to push yourself forward quickly, right? Even getting help. You can get a virtual assistant. A lot of people may not realize this or think about this, but you can get a virtual assistant to work for you 40 hours a week. Let's just say, conservatively, for $1,000 a month, right? You can do it for less, but let's say $1,000 a month. And as a part of your plan, if you said, you know what, for the next 6 months, I'm going to have somebody work for full time for the next 6 months. So what is that? Easy math. That's $6,000. So they're telling me that if you get approved for $100,000 or $120,000, and then you can set aside $6,000 in that budget to be able to pay the virtual assistant, which you can use the cards to pay them directly sometimes. But to be able to pay the virtual assistant, so you got $6,000. Now you're set for the next 6 weeks. It's going to go 4 hours a week for you. Getting on what you're about to implement in your business, what could that 40 hours a week do for you? Because either that's going to free up time for you to be able to execute on higher level tasks, right? Tessa, what's up? What's up? Good evening. Tessa Rubukaba. Good evening. Thanks for tapping in. Let me know what your question is, Tessa, and I can get an answer for you, right? So you know how powerful that is, though, to say that I've got access to these funds that I can immediately start to implement, right? And again, the powerful thing is you do not have to have tax returns. You don't have to have bank statements. You don't have to have business plans and things like that. And a lot of people think, okay, I have to have all this stuff in order to qualify for this. You don't, right? And again, this is not the end all be all when it comes to business funding. There's other different resources, lots of different ways to go about it. However, this method, once you do it, is a very powerful one because it is one of the fastest ways to get into it, and it has the highest results. Right now, if you've been in business for 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, or LLC's been open, you've got tax returns, you've got business income to show, then there's lots of things. And the good thing about our team, you can actually get help with all of those things. So this is like, you need equipment financing, if you need a business term loan, if you need an SBA loan up to $5 million, and you're looking to either buy a business or take over or do something like that, like we can help with all of that across the board. But what I'm explaining to you in this session tonight is, again, the power of this 0% stacking method, because it is something that can take you a very, very long way, right? So again, put your question in the chat. Put your question in the chat. If you feel like you want to find out, okay, where am I at? You know what I mean? Do I actually qualify for this? And if you fit that description that I just shared about those bullet points, you can be hopping on a call with the team. What you can do is go to fundingmyfuture.net. You need to put your information in. It takes about 90 seconds to just fill out the little form, and then get a call booked, right? Get a call booked with the team so you can know your exact steps. And the steps are either going to be something in your credit that needs to be improved or shifted around or removed or prepared or optimized, or your credit is good to go and you're actually ready to get for funding. Like I said, my last client that came through, it was 22 days from the time that she took the call to the time that she had her $95,000 that she could use for her real estate business and activities, right? And she only stopped there because that's all that she needed to do. She technically could have taken it even further if she wanted to, right? But so that timeline, you think about the power of that is like I literally could be sitting on this right now. Now, what if that's not you? What if you're watching and you're like, okay, Kyle, this sounds cool, but I don't have I don't have a credit card of that amount, or I do have all that stuff. I got it, but my I do have late payments. I've got charge offs. I got issues in my credit. We can help you with that, right? So that's the other thing is, like I said, if you are talking with the team, then we can help you with a consultation that can get you basically any solution to where you're at. Right? So this is do we need a repair to the credit or improvement to the credit, or do you need something added to your profile, or are you just ready to go? Right now, so I suggest for anybody, because like I told you, the time is going by super quick, like regardless. And somebody tell me I'm lying if you don't look at the last year and say, okay, I blinked and it was January, January of 2024. This year was just starting, and now it's the end of the year. Right, the time is going to go by. Period. Right, so I don't want you to feel like, okay, it's going to take too long for me to get to it. If you start today, then you're just going to be there, right? So that's why I encourage you to just start. So even if it's not you, we can help to guide you along the way, and it's going to minimize any the headaches as much as possible. It's gonna minimize that, so you can push forward in that direction. All right. Now, while you push forward and while you wait, like I said, if you have the will to just do it, I'm gonna go for it. I will put in the work. I know the time's gonna pass quickly. I'll put in the work to position myself so that I can access this to fast track my progress. Right. And for some of you, if you have issues in your credit, we have seen for a lot of our clients. Oh, Garcia, what's up? Good evening, man. We have seen for a lot of our clients success and results in the first 90 days when it comes to fixing and optimizing your credit, right? So if you're looking at 90 days, if this is November now, that puts us in that's February, and you could be um, having access to, like I said, 100K, 50K, 150K to be able to use for business, for investment, for mentorship, all that stuff, right? So, so that can be a super powerful thing to get into. Um, so another way that you can leverage this is while you wait for that to process, you can use something that's called the credit partner, right? Where now we're thinking out of the box and we're thinking a little bit more like community based, thinking interaction. How do we leverage each other? Because if I have a credit partner, so I don't have that credit set up, but because Kyle just told me the exact things that are needed to get funded, right, with this very powerful type of funding, I can get a credit partner, someone that has the credit, and then I'm going to be executing on the business, and now we can get them funded either under their own LLC, or we use a strategy to merge them into your operating agreement. But we use them to get the funding, and then we do the execution. So if that's the case, what does that mean? It means that right now you could be still 30 days away if you just leverage the right person, the right partner, right? Let me give you the third way, that if you are not qualified right this second, and then while you wait for your profile to be cleaned up, or for things to be added in, or things to be shifted around, while you wait for that, here's the third thing you can do. Now that you know this blueprint, as far as the main thing that is needed to get access to this funding, right? You could also be referring people, and you could be making money on referrals along the way. All right. I just sent out a payment not too long ago to one of my partners who referred one client, and I sent them $2,252. Right, it's the easiest money that they've ever made because they just thought of the person that would be a good fit potentially. Right, and this person went through, they got funded, they were happy, and I sent them that money. They didn't have to lift a finger after. They didn't have to do any more research, no more calls, or more follow-ups. Just share, send it. And if you do the math on that, you can do that once a month. You did that, you know, twice a month. People easily can make 2 to 5K additional with just, let me just think of a person. If you took it even slightly seriously, then you can do the numbers on it, right? So this is this is why I'm saying that you don't have to wait. Again, I suggest wherever you are, if you're at all thinking about, okay, I would like to have this sort of funding, right? Access to this, the 0% funds, like if I can leverage strategically, would change the game for me. Right? Get me into that right room, would help me to get into my first real estate property, investment property, things like that. So much power. I would suggest that you get on a call with the team. Go to fundingmyfuture.net, fill out the little form, right? And um, it's going to take about 90 seconds, and you can get a call booked with the team to know your exact next steps, right? So, Jenny, so you said you're starting a real estate coaching, right? And you can send the clients. Oh, definitely, definitely. Jenny. Let's talk about that, right? So, how do you do a consultation? So, Edwin McDonald, what's up? Good evening. So, how do you do a consultation? So, you're going to go to fundingmyfuture.net or hit the link in my bio, and you're going to book a call, right? There's just going to be a little button on there, and then you're going to fill out some quick information. You're going to choose a time slot, and then you can message me directly in between. You're going to meet with one of the partner funding advisors or the credit advisors to say, like, what is my next step? And again, um, like I said, the power of this is that wherever you are, we can guide you to whatever the next step is. Right, so that's why you don't have to worry about, okay, I'm not ready yet, or at least just find out. You're going to walk away with education. You're going to walk away with some inspiration and some tools, some awareness. So, okay, this is where I am, but these are my next steps. It takes out all the guesswork, right? A lot of this information, like anything else in life, you can find a lot of the information like online or YouTube and things like that, but it's just a lot to piece together. And ideally, you are the person that is going to be walking through the next steps, right? So Edwin says, "Is there a cost for this consultation?" Edwin, no, there is no cost, right? No cost for the consultation, right? So look at your next steps, and then they will lay out clearly for you. Okay, what is it? What does that look like if we're going to help you with credit card? Can help you with funding? What does that look like for you? They're going to lay that out clearly. But like that's why I said it's an easy thing to do to get into. To say, okay, well, let me just get that consultation. I can at least get some awareness, some education around what I need to do, and then I can decide for myself, is this right for me, and move forward, right? So let's keep going with this because I do want to get to. Again, thank you, Edwin, for the question. You keep putting your questions in the chat, right? So so next is, let's look at this LLC format. So I already broke down the personal structure, right? And if you missed that, then let me know. I will go through it again briefly, right? But I went through the personal structure. So I'm going to your personal credit profile, and it's not just your score, right? So score is cool. Score is important. And you'll hear a lot of people say, hey, if you have a 680 credit score, if you have a 700 credit score, you can get funded and things like that. But the reality is there are people with a 700, 750 credit score, 780 credit score that are still getting denied. It's because they don't have the blueprint that I just shared with you, and that credit profile isn't strong enough for the banks to be able to match it. Right? So I literally just gave you everything that you need. Right? So let's talk about the LLC, the business entity structure, real quick. This is the other side. There's two pillars. It's your personal, right? It's your personal, and then your business entity structure, right? So what does a business entity need to look like? Number one, you need to have a non-high risk business name. So what is that? The banks consider certain names to be indicating a certain industry, right? Regardless of what you do or not, they're kind of judging you based on your name. So if your name is an industry that they don't like, how do you know what they don't like? You just trial and error, or there's resources you can look up. If these industries are like restricted or semi-restricted, things like that. But the people who have been going through this with clients every day, that's what the team is kind of designed to do. They're up on the latest on all, right? So the way that you can kind of avoid this is to be able to make it as generic as possible, simple and straightforward as possible, right? So like a boring thing. So this might be a keyword in enterprises, right? Or last name and solutions, or a keyword in group, or something like that. Anything that you can gear, right? Again, when you leave it generic, it's kind of open-ended. So that way, when you do submit your NAICS code and they categorize you, right, what in a certain area, then you can be able to move forward, right? Um, so next is going to be your business address. It's really important, right? So business address. needs to be a something that the banks are gonna feel like is gonna stick around for a while, right? Not that something you can just up and leave, which is why banks do not like PO boxes, right? Because it's like anybody can start a PO box. It's like if you're gonna do something shady or you're doing like laundering or something like that, like that's gonna be the easiest thing that you can get into and just like leave alone or just so they don't like that. They want stability, right? They want to know if they're giving money out, giving you 20,000, 50,000, 30,000, then 100,000. I want you to be able to know like where you are, like what's happening with this, what's our recourse. Again, if you look at it from their perspective, that makes sense. So we're just setting things up to look as attractive as possible to them, right? So the business address is really important in that you want to make sure that it doesn't look, smell, quack like a PO box. Now, virtual addresses are things that a lot of people will say, okay, you need to get a virtual address for your business. That's what we're going to use to get funding. That's what we use to deal with the clients. Virtual addresses have been very powerful, but a lot of banks are starting to look sideways at virtual addresses. Why? Because they're kind of like glorified PO boxes. You don't actually have a business there. You don't, do anything there. Technically, we can't find you there. So now it becomes this black box that they're concerned about, right? So if you are going to use a virtual address, I have a couple videos on this. I've broken this down. If you are going to use a virtual address, you need to make sure that this does not show up as what's called a CMRA or um, commercial mail receiving agency, right? If that is the case, that's going to be a big problem because it's indicating that this place is only designed to process mail. Highly likely that you don't have your run your business from it, right? So how do you check this? It's very easy. You can go to Google and look up the USPS zip code lookup. And when you put the address in that zip code lookup, it's going to give you some line items that it's going to spit out, right? And on those line items, one of those lines is going to be um, something for CMRA. If that CMRA says a Y next to it, then that's a no-no, right? And what I showed was I broke down how if you get an address like I posted one, which is a popular one for certain reasons, but people might avoid it and not realize that there's different types of addresses. Some of the addresses, a lot of them that are a lot cheaper, right, are these CMRA addresses. And the second way that you can look at it and tell like what's going on with it is because when you Google this address on Google Street View and you look at what does it actually look like, the good addresses look like a nice office building, professional office building. These other addresses that are CMRA, a lot of times it's a Staples, 7-Eleven, something like that. Where if somebody were to look at that, sometimes the underwriters do look at these things, right? When somebody were to look at that, it's like this is obvious and clear that this is not your business that you're running out of. They're going to either get you a denial or that might get you a rolling and things like that, right? So here's the sauce that is the most recent sauce that I can tell you, right? Is that a lot of people have been getting funding again under this strategy that I'm telling you about with the 0% business credit, that no documents needed, things like that, 100,000. They've been going to stack all these different sources, 150,000. The address that's been working is actually the home address, right? So you might say, Kyle, okay, well, home address sounds cool, but I don't want my home address out there, right, in the public. Here's the strategy that a lot of our clients have been using in this way, where I'm having actually like a dual setup, right? Pay money for this information. So please pay attention and take some notes. Again, like this, hit the like button. If you are getting any value from this at all, just keep on tapping. This is good information. Share this with somebody so that other people can grow from this, right? My goal is that everybody knows at least the basic formulas. And this can change the game, really change the game, right, for anybody. Right? So this is why this is really important. So that home address, you can use a dual setup, right? So some people will create a LLC that's dedicated strictly to funding, that has everything that the banks want to see. That's nicely packaged. So like generic, all the things that we just talked about, and it's using their home address. Now you can get a lot of funding because again, the banks we're going to look at that address and say, okay, this is a solid physical address, and this is also happens to be where you are. So you know where you are if something goes down, right? And that's something that they like. Now, some people will tell you don't use a home address for business because you go for the bigger funding, right? Sometimes it might be like some questions come up where it's like, okay, well, will this do business? Then how do you do it, right? So, but this is often like pretty far down the line for a lot of people. And if you can't leverage 100,000, 150,000, 200,000, 300,000, depending on how you spend it, 500,000, depending on how you leverage and get multiple guarantors, multiple policies. Like I told you, is between myself and my wife. That's a strategy that we use. That's what I said. That's a strategy that we use to be able to leverage multiple LLCs and then kind of double up on the amount of money that we're able to get, and then use it for different purposes that we have, right? So again, it's so much more accessible than a lot of those other routes. And if you can't use that to leverage into new money, make your money back, you kind of have some other problems, and you're not even going to be able to get to that kind of bigger business point anyway. You know what I mean? So because this is so accessible, some people will leverage that, and I have a dedicated LLC, right? That is for funding purposes. And then once that LLC is funded, that LLC can loan funds, right, over to another LLC. Consult your CPA and tax person, attorney, or whatever about that. It's not legal advice. A lot of our clients are using this strategy to be able to get the maximum funding on that side. And then we have another LLC set up for our client facing activity, right? So then we can put whatever name we want, whatever industry that we want, whatever address, use whatever email, like all this stuff. And we're about to talk about some of these other factors. All that stuff you can like however you want to, and then you have kind of both going. And because like if I'm facing clients with this, and they know the LLC name, anybody can look up an LLC and see what the address is, right? So now you can use your privatized address. Now you can use your registered agent address. Now you can use your virtual address and have that work very well for that. And if the funding LLC is not really facing anyone, nobody really knows about it. It's just kind of the bank. The risk of having something happen or having someone wanting to look it up and compromise you is a lot lower, right? So, and again, to be able to access the maximum funding, a lot of times it makes sense for those that are thinking investors. What's the ROI? Because obviously, you have two LLCs that are two annual fees, things like that. But if we're talking about the difference between, like 50,000 approvals or 60,000 with going this route versus an additional like 100,000, that could be a big difference, right? And that can quickly overshadow like what costs I might have had in having to maintain that, right? So that can be super important. So that's those are the two key points on business address. Now, once you have your name and you have your address, it's really important to get those locked in first, because then the next thing is a really critical point, that all your information needs to match across everything, right? And this means your name and your address, even down to the casing, even down to the periods, things like that, needs to be the same across any like public and official filing that you have. This is the EIN, the IRS. This is the your state filing, your articles. This is when you sign up for a bank account. This is all of that stuff, right? It needs to be the exact same. Why does it need to be the same? Well, because when the computers that are doing these underwriting and doing these initial checks and things like that are looking up your business, if some of these names show up differently in these different arenas, then it gets confused as, okay, well, which business is this, right? So when it gets confused, that's when it starts to, hand out no's and hand out denials, hand out low limits, or push you over to a process where now you need to submit all these different documents and things like that. It becomes a big headache, right? So we can avoid all of that by leveraging these strategies, okay? So next, I'm going to zip through this real quick. Please ask your question. Put your question in the chat, and I am answering anything directly right now, right? So put your question. Like I said, I paid a lot of money for this information, and I want to be able to share it with you so that know what you need to be able to set up for this, right? So please don't hesitate to put your questions in the chat. And thank you again. If you are getting any value from this at all, hit the like button, share this with somebody. You can get this information out. All right, so let's keep going. So next, you want your business to look as legit as possible on paper and as presentable as possible to the banks. All right, so we talked about name, we talked about the business address. Now your business phone number, ideally you have a dedicated business phone number, right? And you can squeeze by and get a decent amount with using a Google Voice phone number, right? That can work. Ideally, you just have something that's dedicated. You can even pay for a Grasshopper phone number or a Call 8 or these different companies that can give you a dedicated line depending on your business needs. To look at that, see what works for you. But ideally, you have something that's just not your cell phone, and that's the business number. Right? So it makes it more legit, and legit means kind of secure and safe. To the banks, secure and safe means we're going to give you a lot more money. Right? That's pretty much what it comes into. So next is your business website and your domain-based email address. So when you have a business website, nothing crazy. We just need a simple landing page that just looks clean and looks professional, right? So you purchase your domain. You can go on Fiverr.com, Fiverr, Fiverr.com, and have somebody a create a landing page for you in a couple hours for $20, $15, $25, right? So that's not a heavy lift. Even if there's another option is if you go to GoDaddy, and let's say you got your domain from GoDaddy, they have like an AI website builder. So you can put in like what you want out of this basic landing page, give it the basic information, and it can just put something together that looks nice. Right? Once you have something together that looks nice, it has your business name, it's got your business logo. You can get a logo created as well, Fiverr or some of the other means. A business logo. You got some stock photos that look decent, look nice. You got your business phone number and your email, your contact on there. You've got your sometimes even a picture of you as the founder. Like a mission statement about what it is. You've got that website type, and it's just clean and simple. That can take you a long way, right? Now, speaking of mission statement and what the banks want to see, again, just giving you the sauce straight up is that when you can gear yourself in any way towards some of the non-risk arenas, then that's going to help. That's always going to help. So what are these arenas? Is anything that's geared towards like consulting in some way, or towards marketing, or towards um, um, like if you're doing like online education or some sort of education, right? There's different things like that that if you can angle what you're doing in that direction, put that in this again packaged version that's going to be going to the banks, that's going to give you the maxed results possible. Right now, some industries just kind of fall in the middle where it's like, hey, I'm a painter or I do this or that, and if you can just put like your actual business with no strategy to it, then sometimes you can get funding. You just have to be able to know, okay, well, which industries are the ones that are restricted or suppressed, or just things that they don't like, right? So that's why I say you can just set one up, or set something up, or set up a presence that looks a certain way, and then however you want to set up your client-facing site, you can have that just bring both of those, right? That's a good strategy that works. Now, so we talked about the domain-based website. You need an email address. That's not a Gmail. That's not a Yahoo. You just need info at such and such.com, or my name at such and such.com on your domain name. It just looks a lot more legit, and things can push forward. This sounds like a lot of little small things. These small things add up to a big difference. And what are some of those big differences? What I'm talking about is if you get these approvals, like if you're lined up with this, where I said with the personal credit structure, you get these approvals. This can be the difference between like having a $5,000 card approval, $4,000, versus this is like a real example. Right? There was somebody that got a $5,000 approval with a certain card working with a specific company that maybe didn't do some of this extra, due diligence to like make sure that they were fully set up. And the client I was working with from the same bank, we got $50,000 on the same card from the same bank. So that difference is pretty drastic, right? That's a pretty drastic example. But some of these differences could mean, again, between 5,000 and 15,000, 3,000 and 20,000. So those differences can add up pretty quickly, right? So all these little nuances that I told you about, from personal credit profile as well as this entity structure, all these little things that seem like it might not be that important, or maybe I can squeeze in the door if I have barely this, that's going to drastically change the outcomes, right? So, so again, a domain-based email address, and next is your business presence, your online presence. So you can make sure the online presence is tight. And again, this doesn't have to be crazy, but when you Google the business, does it show up in Google, right? Most all legitimate businesses should have SEO to where if you type it in, you show up. If you don't show up, it's kind of a red flag if you think about it, right? You're trying to do research on somebody, a nanny for your kids, and you can't find them anywhere. It's like, okay, what's going on with this, right? So this is how the banks approach this: is that they're looking at this to see who is legit, and they're going to be putting money into you and into it. And this is the way that we can do it for. Now, this is why your personal credit profile is so important to leverage, because you are basically vouching for the business, right? And they're investing into the founder a lot of times even more than the business itself. This is why you don't necessarily need tax returns, and like you're bringing collateral to the deal, to the situation, because your personal credit profile is the collateral. Like that's what the banks need to feel comfortable to say, okay, we can give this person $40,000 in a credit card. We can give this person 25,000. Give this person 20,000 just because of how they've handled things, and that's how they're able to fund that particular policy, right? And if you're just joining, I want you to make sure that you take advantage of these free consultation calls that are happening, right? Fundingmyfuture.net, fill out the little form, you're gonna book a call with the team, right? So you can get your exact next steps. What do I need? What do I need to do next? Where am I at? Get a snapshot, get some education. And one thing I will say about the partner company that I'm with is that there's a lot of emphasis placed on relationship and on education, right? So to the point where we want you to be able to get funded and get your goals met, but also be able to learn potentially how to do it for yourself in the future, right? So there's a lot of companies out there that just kind of get the result and just kind of dump you off. But this is a lot more of a conversation with, again, in business and things like that. These things are long term and they're fluctuating and they're fluid, and it does help to have that additional just advice and assistance, right, going forward. So that's something that's really powerful. So can't stress enough. Just take advantage of the free consultation call, right? So next, we talk about the online presence. Does it show up in Google? Does it show up in Bing? Does it show up in Yelp? You can add your information to these sites, upload your information to the business, right? And again, whatever you put, make sure that it's matching, right? The business address, business name. So, does it show up in Yelp? Does it show up in Bing? Do you have a 411 listing in the 411 database? How can you do that? An easy thing you can write down. You can go to listyourself.net, listyourself.net, and you can add in your information to the 411 listing. There's a paid one that's national. There's a free one that's local. The national one's going to be slightly more impactful, but either one can work. These are just little things to be able to make sure that your business is fully available, right? Fully present on paper, and to any person on looking quickly, which is what the underwriters are doing. Look at it. Hey, this looks legit. That's what you want, right? Once you have those things in place, obviously you've got your EIN, you got your state articles, you got your operating agreement, you're in good standing with the state. You got your business bank account. And again, these bank accounts, you're going to be leveraging this to be able to get into the right banks that you want to actually use, right? Said, where do I find a free consultation? You have said, you're just going to go to fundingmyfuture.net, or you can click the link in my bio. It's right there as well. You're going to hit the little button and to go and fill out the form. When you fill out the form, you're going to be able to book a consultation call, and we'll take it from there. You'll be linked with one of the advisors, either it's going to be a credit advisor or that's going to be a funding advisor, depending on where things are in your credit profile, right? Free consultation, like I said, it's only positive because you're going to walk through education and some value, like, no matter what, right? So once you have those things lined up, you can get a Dun and Bradstreet number. and just to make it again a little bit more official, a lot of people talk about like building a paydex score, things like that. Um, uh, People talk about like getting net 30 accounts and these business trade lines and things like that, build up your business credit. That is a thing. However, like I said, that method and that approach, it does take a lot longer to build up, and the stakes are a bit smaller. So let me just break down one thing real quick. And again, put your questions in the chat. If you have any questions at all, right, about how this works, who is this for, what situation can I use this in? I feel like this is blocking me. Please ask your question. I paid good money to get this info, and I want to be able to share it with you tonight for free, so you can push yourself forward and improve your life, right? So we talked about the paydex score and things like that. That is important. However, you do not need that in order to get access to this particular approach, like the 0% business credit in the form of these business credit cards that do not show up on your personal credit report, and you can leverage them. No documentation being submitted, and it's typically 0% for 12 to 18 months, 9 months, right? Again, that's a very powerful thing because it can be accessible very quickly to a lot of people, right? So the way that this actually helps other methods is that it's back to another point that I made earlier. We talked about the personal credit profile. We talked about how your comps on your personal credit cards need to be supporting high limits on the business side. So if you have low limits on your personal credit, you're going to get lower limits on the business side. High limits on your personal credit, you're going to get high limits on the business side, right? It kind of makes sense. And the business credit cards usually have higher limits in general. So typically it's going to be a multiplier of kind of what you have on the personal side. So again, this is why we say you have two credit cards of at least $2,000 or more that can get you in the door, but ideally you've got 10,000, 20,000, 15,000. And when you have that, now you're a good candidate for getting the max from each bank. Again, that could be 10, 15,000, or it could be 30,000, 50,000, 70,000, depending on the bank that we go to, depending on your specific funding sequence, right? And again, the team is going to be looking at your situation. Everybody's situation is different, right? The state that you're in, the goal that you have as far as how much funding you want to get, the type of funding that you want to get, your credit report, the current state of the financial industry in the country and the laws, like all these things come together, which is why this consultation is so important, to be able to look at your specific next step and to be able to advise you properly on that. So you need to go to fundingmyfuture.net to get yourself a free consultation call booked, or hit the link in my bio, or DM me. I'll send it to you if you're having any trouble. But take advantage of that free consultation call, right? So I'm gonna loop back around to the beginning. Right? I'm gonna go through it one more time before I hop off, unless there are any questions. If somebody has a question, please ask it. I will pause for the cause and make sure you get your answer right. So I'm gonna go through it one more time. The two pillars that we need is a personal credit profile needs to be properly structured, and we need the business entity to be set up in the right way, right? And both of those need to look as good to the banks as possible, right? That number one is it's going to be reflected in our credit score, but it's not just the credit score; it's the credit profile, right? So here's our credit profile to look like. We need at least two credit cards with $3,000 limit or higher. You can write this down. Ideally, the overall limits across all of my cards is at least $30,000, right? 30,000 to 100,000. That's the sweet spot. You can check your credit monitoring now, check your credit report, whatever platform that you use. If you don't know that, you can reach out to me. Again, when you book a call with the team, you'll be able to get access to, okay, well, what's the best way to find out where I'm even at right now, right? So those two credit cards, the utilization is below 30%, but ideally it's below 10%. Right, so we look at that utilization. Where is it at? We already talked about some moves we made to be able to get around utilization issues. So if utilization is the only thing holding you back, then you need to hit me up, or you need to get with the team. So you might be one move away, literally. You might be 20 days away, 30 days away from being in position to just fully go full throttle with the funding and again have access to 100K, 150K, 50K, whatever it is that you need. Again, please put your question in the chat. If you're getting any value from this at all, hit the like button. Keep hitting the like. Share this with somebody so that people can know that this is good stuff that's being put out there, right? So let's keep going. So utilization needs to be as low as possible, right? Between 3 to 10% is kind of the sweet spot. But lower the better. And then your inquiries. You need to have at max 3 inquiries per bureau, right? And those inquiries, if you look at the age of them, if they're older than 6 months, it's kind of okay. If they're under 6 months, it's definitely something you need to be mindful of. Wait, funding, or if it's not attached to the account or a credit report, we can potentially get them removed, right? We have strategies to teach you how to do it yourself. Or if you're like, I don't have the time to do that, then we can do it for you, right? So next is I need at least 7 to 10 primary accounts reporting on my credit file. I hope you're writing this down. I hope you're writing this down. As I told you, this information that I'm sharing with you now opens up a lot of doors, not only for yourself, but now I can know it for, again, we talked about the credit partner. That even if my credit isn't ready, that I can leverage a credit partner and have them get funded, and now we work on the business together. And they're just supporting it financially. Now I got the money that I need to be able to move forward into it, right? Or, like I said, you could be referring people for $2,000 to $5,000 a month. Super easy. One client, 2 clients, right? And depending on what industry you're in, that could be a big deal. Some of you are working with a lot of people, a lot of investors, a lot of people, a lot of people doing business. You could potentially use access to 100,000, 150,000. So if you're listening to me and this is not you, like right this second, you in the form of let me connect somebody to it, right? So you do have the access to that, right? So we talked about the inquiries, we talked about the number of primary accounts on your credit file. Next is your age. The average age of all your accounts needs to be ideally over 4 years or more. And if you want to just squeeze in the door, 2 years or more, right? Now, what if your average age? Let me give you one more little tip before I kind of land the plane here. What if is um, your average age is too low? Maybe because you've been getting some accounts recently. Average age is too low. Here's one thing that you can do to impact that. You can get what's called an authorized user trade line, right, added to your credit profile. Now, what is that? When someone else that has a card that is in good standing, that has a certain age and a certain credit limit, and they add you as an authorized user. When they do that, depending on the bank that you're going with, that gets reported to the personal credit profile of whoever was added. Right now, you can do this with a family member or something like that. If you know somebody that just has a card that they've had for a long time, got a high limit, they've never had any late payments, and they never really use it that much, the utilization stays low, and they add you to that card, your credit gets increased or gets impacted based on these 2 factors. And the 2 factors are your average age of your credit, right? The age gets transferred to your report, and the utilization gets transferred to your report. So it could significantly change the utilization that you have just by adding a card. So let's just say I've got $10,000 in my credit limit on the personal side, and I add somebody's card that has $20,000, right? And let's just say I was using $10,000 of my limit. So I started with 10,000, and then I added another 20,000 that's not being used. So now I have a total of 30,000. And guess what happens to my utilization? It goes from 100%, immediately goes down to 33%, right? So that's just a quick and rough example, but that can definitely impact that situation. So that might be the one move that somebody needs before they go for funding. If everything else looks good, everything else looks clean, but their age is just too short, you can sweeten the pot by adding some authorized user trade lines, right? Again, if you don't have a family member that has that, or just don't know somebody that can serve as that partner, you can actually buy and purchase those trade lines. There's different websites out there you can do it, or you can DM me. I sell them. And there's people that I'm connected to that sell them. There's lots of ways to be able to get to those, right? Authorized user trade lines that you can just purchase for a temporary time period to just boost your account, and that might get you over the hump again. These computers are searching for different data points and things like that. And if you can get over that hump, that's the nicest way to just slide into positive results and higher limits, right? So, so that's a nugget that again A lot of people feel like they might be held back, but those are some things you can do to be able to get through the door and get to the funding. All right. Now, next, we talked about those first bullet points. Next is basically I want no negatives on my report, zero negatives. What do I have? No late payments. I have no collections. I have no charge offs. I have no bankruptcy. Now, the one caveat to that is if you're late payment, if you have a late payment that's older than 2 years, then that has a little bit less impact on the funding decision, right? If it's older than 2 years. How do I know? Because I worked with a client, had a good profile, but she had some student loans that had some issues that were, 3, 4 years back, and we still were able to get her 75,000 from the first bank, another 30,000 from a couple other banks, before we just stopped for her for where she was. But that was even with that still there, right? So that is a caveat. But ideally, put yourself in the best position. You got nothing on there. So if you do have those, don't worry. We can help you with that as far as being able to repair and improve the credit, but also to optimize the credit before funding. There's a lot of people that can do credit repair and get things removed from your report, things like that. I just talked to somebody who worked with somebody and said, okay, they fixed my credit, but basically everything got wiped off of his credit, right? Which can be good and bad. But now he's not able to qualify for certain things that he wants to because he doesn't have enough credit. It's insufficient credit. So that company wasn't necessarily thinking about, okay, what do you need to add to the report to make it as robust as possible to be able to either qualify for what you want or to go for business funding, right? So this is why it helps to work with people that know that end goal of funding the business, so that we can make sure that you can just put into the profile that needs to be there. That's going to strengthen it as much as possible, right? So, so if you have that, like I said, that whole blueprint, that is the sauce. I literally just laid out those bullet points. If you understand those, the credit cards, utilization, right, the primary accounts, the inquiries, the average age, and the derogatories, no derogatories, you can start to pre-qualify yourself or pre-qualify other people according to that criteria and say, okay, this person might be a good fit for this. Like, do they have this many credit cards? Right? Do they have? And you can, like I said, you can literally plug your credit report now and check this. If that is you, then you need to be hopping on the call with the team right now, right? Because you could be literally sitting on money that you could be accessing to push things forward. That could be, again, that could be your first real estate project. It could be your first business. It could be your first virtual assistant. It could be your next mentorship, high level mentorship, to be able to get specific information, and not only just information, but to be exposed to other people who are thinking on a different wavelength, right? Apolline, what's up? What's up? Good evening, man. Who are thinking on a different wavelength, right? And that changes the environment that you're in, and the environment significantly impacts the trajectory of how you're moving in your life and in your business, right? So, again, this can be the difference between how fast you move forward, because you can have the greatest ideas in the world, but if you're not in the right environment or the people that you're around are dragging you down, dragging your energy down, and they're not when they're shooting down your dreams and goals, this, and that, and it's just always that negativity. Sometimes you need to be around people, and that can be a benefit because if you paid $5,000, if you paid 10,000, if you paid 25,000 to be in this group, and you leverage your business credit potentially to be able to do that, other people paid that as well. It's a different conversation. It's a different interaction with that level of people. Now you got a new circle of people to interact with, right? Now you got a new set of inspiration to pull from, right? So this is an important point. So once you know these bullet points, like I said, you can jump on this. Now, one other thing I want to share is with everything that I do, I want to create as much as possible. I want to create like real situations. And one of the ways that I want to do that is to be able to pour into the next generation so that they can also get information and access more than I did, and more than a lot of us when we were coming through, so that they can elevate basically the entire generational wealth landscape. So what I've done is I have committed to donate and reinvest a portion of my profits to a fund that's going to help young entrepreneurs to get into business, to get into wealth creation, to get into financial literacy, investment, so that they can push things forward sooner, right, and be in a much better place. And I think that will help everyone overall. So that's just something to throw in there. a personal commitment that if you're working with me in any way, just know that that is a part of the equation in some form of fashion. So if you're being helped and they're being helped, then that's a super win-win situation. Right? So if you're joining here, put your question in the chat. Make sure you take advantage of the free consultation call. Right? Fundingmypeople.net or hit the link in my bio, right, to be able to book a call with the team. So like, what is my next step? Where am I at? What do I need to do? Like, take advantage of that. I can't stress that enough. Free calls, and at the very least, you're going to walk away with value. You're going to walk away with some inspiration, some information to be able to say, "Okay, this is the best next thing for me." Right now, what I've shared with you tonight, regardless of who you go with, and this is just the secret that I'm sharing, regardless of who you decide to work with, you set up this information tonight that I shared, you will be set up for success, right? And just like I said, the results do vary depending on who you're with, both in the interaction as well as the tangible like outcome, tangible limits that you get. And like I said, I gave you the example of for some of my friends, good people that way or decided to, do certain things for themselves, things like that. And they got some approvals, but the approval was, again, it was, and let's give like a real example, like $20,000 approval on a card, which sounds great. Until you realize that the same card in the same situation, a client that I was working with, they had 75,000 on two different cards at the same time, and the other way got 20,000. Now 20,000 is great. Depending on your business plan, like what you're trying to execute, 20,000 is amazing, right? However, you can benefit from 75,000 versus 25. Again, that might be an extreme example because that was with Chase, and Chase has since changed the rules how they do the underwriting, how they do their approvals, right? So things are different with that, which is again why you need to take advantage of these things now before things shift, right? But even in this state, the people that are working with our team versus some of these other avenues, and I've literally seen this because I've seen some of these groups where people are doing this, and some of the approvals were $3,000, $4,000, right? Versus we just got somebody $50,000, right? Across two cards, $40,000 card and a $10,000, right? Versus a 5,000. So like you have to kind of look at that and make sure again, like you know who you're working with, and know that the outcomes are going to be what you want, right? So so again, if you're watching this, if you've gotten any value from this, hit the like button, keep on hitting it. Let the algorithm know that this is good information. I'm here sharing this with you. I'm up late. My daughter went down, thankfully, at a decent hour tonight, but it's been an interesting week. You know what I mean? So I will say I don't have as much. Um, I could use a little sleep, but I'm here up with you now to be able to share this information because it's like so important. All right, and it's so accessible and so critical that if you have this a little formula, if you put this formula in place, you have these few things in place, right? You can access these funds, right? And to be able to significantly cut down the time on what you need to get into these different things. And again, how much is it going to take? How much time is it going to take you to save up $100,000? How much time will it take you to save up $120,000? Right? I don't care what kind of beans and rice diet that you eat or budget that you have. We're going to do it all to save up even 50, 60, right? We're saying that potentially, depending on where you are, potentially in the next 30 days, you could have access to 120,000, 130,000, 80,000. Like that's really, really powerful. Again, even if you're a new business and and you're not even set up yet, right? So LJ, I appreciate this question. Appreciate the question and welcome. She said, "What if my credit was crashed?" LJ, I want you to not worry about that because there's multiple things you can do. I'm going to go over it one more time just because you're here and you're tapped in, right? We'll go over it and share with you exactly what you can do. Number one, you need to start today to get things moving, right? Because the time is going to go by quickly either way, right? This year has flown by. I mean, I'm not alone in this. The year has flown by. And I could have swore it was just 2024, the beginning of 2025. Now we're already in December, right? Now, a lot of our clients, even if credit is trash, a lot of our clients have been seeing results in the first 90 days, right? So even if you say, okay, I'm going to be building up different things, I got to work and get some things removed and things like that, add to my profile, and it takes 90 days, that would be great. In February, I got positioned to be able to access 100,000, 120,000, and I can, again, like we talked about, I can use some of that access and mentorships, some of these different things, and I can pay a high level mentor $20,000 to show me how to make $50,000 a month. That opens up things significantly. If my February is going to look like that, it's worth it to start today, right? So that's the first thing that I would say, LJ, is just get started, right? And even if it took a year, because maybe you don't have any credit cards and you got to add some things, you got to get some personal credit cards. Ideally, you get some high limit cards to set yourself up for the best success. Like I broke down in the blueprint. You got a $10,000 card, you got a $15,000 card, you got some 5,000, and you got your credit limit together, and those cards are seasoned for a year, right? That could be removed to get together, right? Now there are some other ways to be able to add to your credit report, and kind of fast track things, right? But even if it took a year, I want you to start going. Now, what are the other ways you can leverage it now if your credit is trash? Here's a powerful point. Please write this down. Please take note, right? Is you can leverage a credit partner. Again, a credit partner that has the credit now, but you have the will and the skill and the desire to be able to push this thing forward. And you can get the funding. That person can get the funding either under their own LLC or join in with yours, and then loan those funds over to your LLC so you can do what you need to do, right? Now that is immediately accessible to you now. If you were to just think a little outside of the box and outside of yourself and say, well, who is it that I can link up with that can partner up with, right? That's fully accessible to you now. Here's the other way that is accessible that everyone should be at least considering is now that you know this blueprint, exactly what's required, right, to set yourself up, especially those bullet points on the personal credit profile. You can be referring people with that profile and be making referral payments on that right now. So even if your credit is not good, while you work on yours, while you let the team guide you through, okay, these are things we need to set up. Here's some opportunities you can leverage, like across the board for your situation, right? While you do that, you could be leveraging credit partners and you could be leveraging affiliates. The last payment that I just paid to somebody, $2,252, and they didn't have to do any work. They just literally shared the name of the person. And that person was a good fit, got funded, and I sent the payments, right? So that can be a very, very easy and accessible thing. So again, before we wrap up, I want you to put any questions that you have in the chat. But if you haven't yet, make sure you book your consultation call, a free consultation. Go to fundingmyfuture.net, fill out the little form, and get a consultation to get your exact next steps. Okay, this is what I need to be doing. All right. That's the quickest and best thing that I can tell you to do. All right. But I want you to make sure you follow me, stay tapped in. If you have any other questions, you can always DM me. Send me a message. Um, I will do my best to answer. I want everybody to be able to move forward again, to uplift, to elevate, and really to be able to get to a place where I'm not having to worry about finances, right? Where I can live my God-given purpose like fully, and it's not something having to do with me worrying about money. All right, that's really what I want for everybody. And this business credit, once you learn the details of it, the power of it, this can be one of the best ways I believe to fast track into the strategies, into the network, into the tools, into whatever it is that you need. Just have that fuel to be able to push forward towards it. Now, like I said, if you do not have an idea of what you're going to do, or if you're thinking that you're going to just do something that you can throw the money everywhere, and plan for it, this might not be for you, right? Because you do need to be able to make money with this new money. But if you have that, if you have the skill, the will, the desire, have the discipline or the personal development, say, I can do this. I can execute on this. somebody tells me the exact steps that I need to do, I will do the work to do. You know what I mean? Or somebody tells me to invest here or put invest in myself, my personal development. I'm willing to do it. Like that's a real the funds are out there, right? In multiple ways, in multiple forms. But this is one of the ones that's a formula. You can have these things together and access it. So yeah, I appreciate you guys for tapping in. I will continue to go on live as much as I can, share this information with people, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next one. So much love, and peace. See you guys.